Lotus have a great history in F1, but the last time they entered Formula One, it was a bit of a disappointment.
Maldonado coming out of the pits and straight into Esteban Gutierrez.
Lotus is a home team for me. I've visited their factory and viewed their collection of all of their old F1 cars. Starting out, I'm playing with the absolute worst staff, worst facilities, worst car, and worst drivers. And from the starting point of basically two guys in a shed building a car, we're going to take Lotus to what they haven't done in decades. And we're going to win both the drivers and the World Championship in the same season. The only rule here is that I can't save scum. If I get fired, then I must restart, and I can't use the last 5 races feature. Other than that, I can use what little money I have to hire whoever I want. For the first attempt, I wanted to grab a point and then just research as much as possible so that I had a head start going into the next season. Going into the first round, I really wasn't sure just how far off the pace we were compared to the grid, but qualifying quickly showed me. Here's a quick summary of how that first attempt went. What I wanted to do here was to never upgrade the car and just solely do research. However, the team didn't want to finish in last place and I was fired as a result. I never scored any points that season, but I came close a few times. For my second attempt, I will have a research focus, but this time with enough designing to make sure I get through to the second season. One of the biggest lessons I learned is that the driver makes a huge difference. So to remedy this, I hired Jesus to take over from Amre Cordell, and I left Sophia Florshin as she is much cheaper, and I believe that I can use just Jesus to get the 1 point that I need. Jumping to halfway through the first season with Giovinazzi, I haven't scored a single point yet, but he has consistently been finishing around P12. Races have been mostly clean without any helpful incidents. However, Baku was a little bit different.
I am stupid. Watching Max Verstappen here. There's clear contact there.
Okay, can you bring it back, Lance?
No, I'm in the ball.
We finally get our first points, and that puts us P8. The team wants P9 in the constructors, and there's only 3 points between us and failing in the first season. We need to make sure we keep scoring points so that we don't get fired. We finished P13 in Singapore, and the only thing that has happened was that the Haas cars both shit themselves.
We do not care.
Another P13 at Kota. Lando lost his lead over Max in this race by crashing into a back marker. Not the first time Lando has destroyed his own race. Another P13 at Mexico, another P13 at Brazil, another P13 at Las Vegas, and P15 and P17 to round off the season. We finish P8 in the constructors and pick up a new Mercedes engine replacing our old Renault engine and a new paint job. We spent the last 5 months researching the technical regulations, and in the pre-season we make a new underfloor and a new rear wing. The idea here was to prep for the next season by not producing any new parts. The majority of the final part of last season. This season's focus will be to pick up some new drivers and also some new staff. Moving into the middle of the season, all of my facilities were a mess. So we did some spring cleaning and then we hired Liam Lawson. Liam will replace Sophia mid-season. Liam's pretty used to that. I locked him into a good 3-year deal at only 5 mil, which is a lot more than Sophia, but should allow us to be more competitive in races. Jumping to Monza, Liam has had a good quali, starting P7. There is an early safety car. It being only lap 4, we decided to keep Liam out, but then
shit.
I tried to pit Giovinazzi, but it was too late and we restarted P1 and P3. A few laps later, Max gets freaked out by a spinning Ferrari and ends up spinning himself and staring at the ugliest cars on the grid. We fall back due to our tyre disadvantage. Pit for some fresh tyres and start making up places back on track. In this universe, Lawrence Stroll has had enough of his fail son and replaced him with Ayahuasca. We battle with him for a few laps, but due to our tyre difference, once we break DRS, we drop him by 6 seconds and catch up to Yuki. Ricciardo's Mercedes has an issue, and we catch him going into the final lap. On the last lap, in the last DRS zone, we don't overtake him to my frustration. Our last chance is into the final corner. Giovinazzi sends it up the inside with a great P7 finish to a crazy race. We now have 30 points and a nice gap to the teams below us, and this gives us a good chance to go for the title with a sole focus on research for the rest of the season. Going back to one of the previous lessons of having a good driver, I have made a bid for Oscar Piastri. He's expensive but would be a good upgrade for the team. I've also gone after Kimi Antonelli for the same seat. He's much cheaper than Piastri and is lower rated, but I believe that Kimi will develop at a faster rate. Piastri tells us to fuck off, wanting 25 million for his salary, which is way too much. But for 1/25 of the salary, Kimi accepts our offer for the number 1 seat.
Oh shit.
I knew the car was going to be quick based off early season projections, but I was worried that the drivers were going to let the car down. Quali showed that we're still extremely competitive, and while our racecraft leaves room for improvement, this is still the strongest that we have ever been, and gives us a real chance going into the 2026 Wild and Drivers Championship. It's a shame not to have won the race, and with Liam's pace, it does leave a lot to be desired, but the plan going forward is to make the best opponents that we can, and develop Antonelli as our main driver.
A fucking VB long neck.
Moving on to Australia, Liam manages to get pole with Kimi in third. However, Piastri quickly drops us by 4 seconds and Liam drops multiple places. A safety car comes out, but just after we had pitted only 5 laps prior, we were forced to pit again to prevent all the other cars from being on newer tyres than us. Kimi slowly makes his way back through the field, overtaking Max and Piastri after Piastri makes a mistake into turn 1. Just like in Bahrain, Lando is ahead and we are catching. It seems Lando damaged his tyres at some point as they are much more worn than would be expected, and clearly won't make it to the end. And as predicted, he gets a puncher, forcing him to pit. Kimi goes on to win the race, with Liam recovering to P4 after overtaking Bottas on the final lap. In Japan, we start on pole but get beaten by McLaren. They are our only rivals this season with 2 very strong drivers, And what we need to beat them is upgrades. So this is exactly what we do. Despite the next round only being China, I've already completed 3 variations of the chassis and 2 variations of every other part of the car. And with most of these upgrades now coming in time for China, we make use of them to absolutely smash the field, dropping a full pit stop on the McLarens. Kimi is leading the drivers with about 20 points now and with 3 wins. But Liam isn't keeping up with Kimi on track, and as a result, McLaren are only 6 points behind us. The win in China does give us the lead, but it's still far too close. We're continuing to develop the car as the season progresses, and now begins our run of domination. P1 in Miami, P1 in Formula 1 MSC Cruises Dan Primo El Made in Italy El Di Emilia-Romagna 2024. P1 in Monaco. Also, congrats to Max for having the slowest crash of the season. P1 in Canada, whilst Liam's car shits itself. P1 in Spain, P1 in Austria, P1 in Britland, P1 in Hungary, P1 in Zandvoort, now Monza. Things are a bit different here. Kimi was in the lead. Liam crashes his car again.
Here's what I have to say about this. See this bullshit? Get out of here.
Kimi had just gone past the pit entry as the safety car came out, and as he was travelling along the main straight, the safety car exited the pit lane, catching Kimi and preventing him from passing the safety car, meaning the entire grid was able to pit for fresher tyres. I decided not to pit Kimi as he would be last on track. I pitted him at his normal lap time. He rejoined back out in P17. Kimi then fought his way through the field to finish P2, only 5 seconds behind Piastri. This does mark the end of Kimi's dominance. So out of sheer anger, Kimi drops an entire minute on P2 and wins in Baku. Getting back to it, Kimi finishes first in Singapore. For Kota, he needs a new engine and gearbox and is sent to the back of the grid. He's so far back with so many cars in front of him for him to overtake. He only managed to win the race by 36 seconds. He'll do better next time. The footage for Brazil decided to just leave and go missing. I have no idea where it went, but you'll never guess what happened. Kimi won the race. Following on to Mexico, P1, Qatar, P1, Abu Dhabi, P1. Kimi only lost 3 races that entire season and won every other race. And in the races that he didn't win, he was still on the podium. Max Verstappen, eat your heart out. Somehow we became less marketable from that season from the sponsors. I'm sorry that your brands were on a championship winning car of the most dominant season of all time. But nevertheless, Kimi ended with 368 points, winning the Drivers' Championship, and Liam in 4th with 288. That sits at a total of 926 points for the season, which of course wins us the constructors as well. That does bring this challenge to a conclusion. In 3 years, we took Lotus from the dirt and up to constructors champions. I want to give a big thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.